Good morning, everybody. It is Tuesday, August 2nd, and this is another episode of Conscious Conversations. Today, we are focused on the struggle being the best part. If you would, please grab coffee, grab water, do what you need to do. I'm going to make sure that we are posted to the appropriate channels, that everybody is on here. If you would say good morning, good morning. Would love to hear how things are going for you, even though we are talking about struggle today. Would love to hear some wins, some things that are going on in your world. Or maybe it could also be some struggles that you are personally dealing with. And we're going to get started in just a few minutes. Good morning, Nicole. Good morning, good morning. I got to tell you, one of my favorite things about being up in North Carolina, I know that this is a total distraction, is all of the unique pottery that is out here. They've got some really great potters that are here in North Carolina and all of Appalachia, but in North Carolina, Tennessee, in Georgia. I just have to spotlight this handmade mug that we picked up from a place called Doe Ridge Pottery up in Boone, North Carolina. Just had to share that. It's the little things that make you super happy. Angela, thank you for liking the color. I appreciate it. Baby steps. I will always be in my black wardrobe, but every once in a while, a pop of color is great. All right, so let's get into understanding struggle. It's interesting in my line of work. I talk to dozens of people on a weekly basis, many of them on very different paths and trajectories. Some individuals are solopreneurs. They are sales individuals that are working by themselves. They wear every hat themselves. I have people that own very large companies that have multi-million dollar budgets of what they are spending. I have single dads, I have single moms, I have grandparents, I have individuals dealing with divorce, I have individuals that are going through the process of marriage, I have individuals that are dealing with infertility as well as identity issues. I mean, so many things that go on. And it's just fascinating how there are recurring themes along different stories and individuals, no matter kind of where their path is. And one of the things that has come up quite often has been an understanding about struggle. Specifically, some individuals are really struggling with some of those challenges. They just can't get over the hump, or they can't understand how what is happening to them in the moment is a part of the larger picture. And so if that is something that you're dealing with, hopefully there's going to be elements of this that are going to be helpful for you. And then for those of you that maybe are not currently struggling with anything, number one, congratulations. It will come. And when those times come, hopefully what we talk about today can be somewhat helpful. And, Alicia, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Trisha, good morning. J9, good morning. Yvette, good morning. It's the girls' club this morning, and I love it. But really understanding, some struggles and understanding that I know that it might seem slightly clickbait that we talk about the struggle as the best part. Yet there are elements of struggle that are very, very important to who we are. So thinking about struggle just in general is usually struggle is an internal conflict. There is dissonance in terms of the story that we thought was going to be there versus the story as it's actually playing out. This could be based on the way that you thought your relationship was supposed to go, or the timeline that you had projected on when certain bills were going to happen, or maybe an unexpected loss, or an opportunity presents itself and you aren't prepared for it because you thought that you had maybe a little bit more time to save up or fix your credit or get your life together, whatever it might be. So first, we must understand Not in every situation, but in almost all situations, when we talk about struggle, it is us coming to terms with the fact that the way that things are panning out are different than the story that we made up in our head. And it's always done usually with the best of intentions, right? As we talked about last week, we talked about imagination. It's one of the things that make the humans one of the most intelligent species on the planet. Both our ability to recall, so having memory match with emotion, and then our ability to imagine into the future, visualize the way that we would like to see some outcome or goal attained. And so, first is understanding that our internal struggle usually is when we're having that discrepancy between our reality and the way that we wanted things to go. So, understanding that conflict first and foremost also means that you are the one that is in control of how you have things pan out. So, if I think that the way that things are going are different than the way that I had planned, well, first of all, what gave me the right to believe that I was the one to make those decisions, right? There is that old adage that, man makes a plan and God laughs, right? It's that idea of things never necessarily go to plan. And so one of those aspects is an understanding of this concept of high intention, low attachment, right? I can have the best of intentions. I can do everything in the right way, in my mind, everything that's in the right way based on my choices in that moment, my finances, my relationships, the knowledge that I have in that moment, the circumstances that are there. And I can still have results that are not necessarily what I had hoped for, right? And we see this quite often in things like sports, right? Like the Olympics or like golf. Right, individuals who go in, they have high intentions of playing their best game, hoping that their best game is going to outperform the games of everybody else. Yet, they might not necessarily get there. They might get a bronze, or they might get a silver, or they might not even place at all. And so we can understand this from a sports perspective, right? Oh, that person maybe didn't get gold, but they had their best performance ever. They broke their own personal records at this game, right? We go, oh, applaud, congratulations. We think that that's a wonderful situation. Yet in personal life, somehow we can't always come to grasp with the fact that our struggle or that conflict of my outcome versus reality being slightly different than what I thought was going to happen. So, really understanding that the idea that struggle is also going to be some of the most beautiful parts is because this is our opportunity of where character is built. I mean, think of some of your favorite movies or books, and just for the sake of interaction, so I don't talk too much, put down in the comment section, give me one of your favorite movies or your favorite books of all time. It doesn't have to be nonfiction. It could be a memoir, could be a novel, whatever it might be. Go ahead and put that in the comment section for me, please. We'd love to hear a few more good mornings, see who is all with us, have you interact, take a sip of coffee. So when we're looking at, and there's always a lag between Facebook Live and my reality, right? And that might be a part of the struggle. But it is an understanding of why is it that we love underdog stories? Why is it that we love redemption stories? And Trisha had put down Field of Dreams. Angela Bui put down The Greatest Showman. J9, I love The Matrix. Alicia put down To Kill a Mockingbird. And so if you look at all of these stories, there is some conflict resolution, right? There's some struggle that happens. The hero of the story has to overcome something. They are faced with adversity. It's the adversity that challenges their character. It's the thing that tests them. Maybe it tests their relationships. It tests their willpower. It tests the internal narrative of maybe they don't think that they have it in them, right? Again, J9, maybe Neo never actually thinks that he's the one. all of these people keep putting all of these expectations that he's going to be the savior of all of these individuals. And in his own conflict, he's thinking, I'm no different. I'm just a man. I mean, sure, I can fly and bend bullets and do certain things like that, but am I really the one in that sense? And so often we love these stories because we get to see the aspects of struggle. We get to see the elements of where the person has to rise to the occasion. And it quite often usually is the best part of the movie. Again, what is the difference between you being the hero of your own story and then your favorite movie or book that you had put down here, right? It is an understanding of what are some of those things that are going on in your life, understanding the struggles that are there. Sigmund Freud, this kind of was one of those things that I had seen a quote that sparked part of this conversation because it was so in parallel with some of the struggles and things that I was talking with individuals. And it says, one day in retrospect, the years of struggle will strike you as the most beautiful. And we know that to be true because we see it, whenever we're reading a memoir of an individual who is wildly successful in their field. They talk about, the athlete who had to play like Jackie Robinson, who didn't even have matching shoes, right? Shoes that had complete holes in them. We hear stories about individuals who are now billionaires or are at the top of their industry that, they were living in an apartment with 9 other people and they barely had any money. Or, you think about individuals like Garth Brooks, right, who has a documentary, I think, on Netflix, who talks about the fact that, he and his wife of the time were living with many other couples in Nashville. They could barely afford anything. They were getting rejected by record label after record label. And it was so close. Actually, they did go back to Oklahoma. And then he tried Nashville one more time. And then, became one of the number one most selling artists across any genre in history. And so we look at these things and we go, oh, why is it that their struggle is something that I resonate with, right? And again, we were talking about this a little bit last week. There is something known as narrative resonance, right? Narrative resonance is the thing that I see in the story that aligns either with my own story, I've had similar struggles, or it aligns with my own story of I want to be like that person, right? We see this with young children who, they want to get dressed up like Superman. They think that they're Superman. We also see this with adults, right? I know that the Comic-Con just made itself back to Tampa last weekend, and there were a ton of, adults that dress up in cosplay. It's a little different, right? Having fun in terms of cosplay. But there is nothing to say that the narrative resonance of I have this character externally that I'm sharing a part of the story, that is very much in alignment with the narrative resonance that you have inside yourself. And so when we think about struggle and you think about the things that you have helped you build character, or they're the things that made you humble, or they're the things that have given you the most gratitude, hanging on to those aspects of struggle, right? So it's one thing to embrace struggle, understanding that and identifying that maybe this current situation, whether it's financial or, my business isn't where I want it to be, or my success is not in alignment with what I would define as success. Those struggles, identifying that it is temporary, I'm going to embrace it and I'm going to actively work towards moving out of that struggle, is different than empowering struggle, right? You and I know that that is where we err on the side of victim language. And so how do we acknowledge our struggle, embrace our struggle, see it as a chapter of our life versus casting ourselves as the victim of the story? And I'm going to ask that question for you because I'm sure that as much as I could give advice, that many of you might have advice in this space as well. So I'm going to ask that question again, and I would love to get some feedback from you. How can you, or if you were to give advice to someone else, what would you say to someone to embrace the struggle, to understand that this is a chapter of their life, and to not be typecast as the victim of their story? Go ahead and put that in the comment section for me, please. Good morning, Stephanie. Good to see you here. Good morning, Allie. Corey, good morning. I love when we have different time zones because I know that there's some people who are up wicked early, like Alicia, who's over there on Pacific time. So she is with us at 5:45 in the morning, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, coffee in hand and ready to go. So looking at these things and getting some of the advice from you all that are here, it is, I think, one of the important elements of this conversation is also to reflect on your own struggle. So the advice that hopefully you all are typing, which I look forward to reading, is also an understanding of, do you give yourself good advice? Doug and I had watched Alice in Wonderland, which is, it's a really great movie. And one of the things in the movie is she's talking to herself. Someone says, what did you say? She says, oh, nothing. I was just giving myself some good pieces of advice. And I thought that that was so charming because of the fact that so often many of you are some of the best friends. You are some of the people in your family that members lean on, and they take your advice, yet you don't even take your own advice, especially in moments of your own struggle or in moments where you are challenged, where your internal narrative is maybe conflicting with what is happening in reality. Alicia said, I'd ask them to turn it from a why is this happening to me versus why is this happening for me mindset. Something that we had talked about yesterday or last Tuesday, right? This idea that the life doesn't happen to you, life happens for you. It is an opportunity to turn challenges and adversity into those opportunities that you get to practice your compassion, practice your gratitude, practice those elements of character, the things that you want to be associated with you. Again, going, I think 2 episodes or 3 episodes back when we were talking about self-image, what are those words that I have associated with who I am that I want people to use those words with me, whether it's honest or trustworthy or loyal or authentic or polished or confident or intelligent, or whatever words you had used when we were going through this exercise. Those are also the values that you have for yourself and for your own character. These are the words that you have associated. And so in these moments of struggle, in these moments of adversity, these are those opportunities for you to test your character. That I don't have these values of character when things are convenient. I have these values of character when things are necessary. Right? Absolutely. I love that. Let's see. Nicole Walker said, one of the best parts about getting there is getting there. We learn the most about ourselves while we are being tested and come out on the other end as a better human than when we were just getting started. I think that that's wonderful. Thank you, Nicole. Trisha said, choose to use your time to focus on your future versus the problem and the past. And I think that's great. Trisha, I'm going to talk about a coaching model that I use and that many people have used, and it's something that you can even use for yourself or friends or family member when you find them sitting maybe in the problem or in the challenge of the past. Again, an opportunity to acknowledge why we are the way that we are or where we are the way that we are, and then making an opportunity to forge a path forward. So we'll get there in just a moment. Thank you for that. Angela said, once we can accept that struggles are a part of life's lessons, it will elevate you to the next version, a better one that is wiser and stronger when we move past it, because we will. Absolutely. And then J9 had said, find a place in your struggle where you can help others. Absolutely. And I know that this particular topic can be a bit of a challenge for some of you. Those of you that know who I'm talking to know who I'm talking to. And understanding that you are able to use this as an opportunity to lean in and be there for others, using your strength and understanding that there are people who might not necessarily have the same character as you do. They might not have the same strength as you do in similar situations. And so when can you take that opportunity to move away from yourself and look outside and say, who else is struggling with these challenges? I think as much as some people would like to believe that memoirs are egotistical and they're just an opportunity for someone to kind of pat themselves on the back, I do think at its core, if someone, well, I suppose it depends on the authenticity of the author, that mini memoirs are an opportunity for someone to say, I've had similar struggles. There is a narrative that shows that I'm always happy or that I'm always successful, or you see this part of the iceberg. But sharing with you all of the things that I had to go through to get there is to say that I am just like you, or quite opposite, that you could be just like me. Those are stories of hope. Those are stories of inspiration. And I think as human beings, we can be so inspired by many of the things that are going on, the way that people had faced adversity and faced struggles. And so asking yourself, do I want to be an inspiration for others that are going through something similar? Or do I want to be a victim to the struggle that's happening and not overcome it, right? Please don't take that as being insensitive. I definitely believe that there are certain things that happen, certain struggles that are more than just a mindset. And yet, I do think that we all are able to understand that our reality, our present moment, is an accumulation of habits and choices that we've made up until this point. So if you do not like where you are financially, make different choices. If you do not like the way that your relationship is with your partner, make different choices. If you do not like how distant you have become with your child or with your mother or with your grandparents, change it, right? And so there is an understanding about some of these things. It's also, maybe there's someone who holds a certain level of power over you, someone that shouldn't, someone that's toxic in your world. Change it, right? Make sure that the struggle that you're experiencing is one that you actually want to go through, and not just something that you're doing to punish yourself because you believe that you're guilty or that you are worth being punished, right? That's a deeper topic for a deeper day, but we'll definitely get there. So one of the things that I had kind of hinted at, thank you so much for the comments. I do really appreciate it. Keep them coming. If you're a slow typer, or if you're someone who didn't necessarily think you wanted to contribute in that moment, please go ahead, and still, we want to hear from you the advice that you would give to someone to make sure that they understand and identify that the struggle that they're currently going through is a chapter, and that they are not being typecast as the victim of the story. But with that, let's move into the GROW model. So the GROW model is an acronym. For many of you, you might want to write this down. I will make sure that we turn this into a blog post that you'll be able to reference, and hopefully there will be something for you to use. And we will talk about some of these things as well in terms of a downloadable that I think Shantae would like to have matched with this morning's episode. So GROW is an acronym that you can use when identifying anything. If you find yourself maybe in quicksand, or you're in a situation that you might not necessarily want to be in, or you can acknowledge that you're currently dealing with a certain level of struggle, is you can go to this process and identify some things. So it is GROW, right? The word grow. G stands for goal. What is the goal? It could be, what is my goal this week? It could be on a particular topic. What is my financial goal for the month of August? It could be something to do with weight loss. It could be, what is my goal for today? Doesn't matter. What is the goal? What is the thing that I'd like to do? Again, that perception that I want to have, high intention around something to do. So that would be the G for grow. R stands for reality. Where am I in my current position? Right. So let's say that I am at 200 pounds, and the goal is that I would like to lose 20 pounds. Let's just say that that's the goal. The goal is to lose 20 pounds. Well, if the reality is that I am 20 pounds overweight, right? My reality is where I am currently. But it also has to do with, how did I get here? Again, going back to what I had said, that your reality in this present moment is an accumulation of habits and choices that you've made up until this point. So how did I get 20 pounds overweight? Or, what was the thing that happened? What did my diet have to look like? What did my lack of exercise had to look like? What were my choices late at night, or my choices in the morning? Or how does my lunch look like? Or what does my shopping list look like? Right? Or what does my consumption of sweets and other things look like, right? So I have to take inventory of what is my reality versus what is my goal. Then I have to say, well, what are my obstacles, right? That would be the O. So goal, reality, obstacle. What are my obstacles that are getting in my way? Maybe it's my sweet tooth. Maybe it's having bad choices in the house. I need to remove them so that they're not even an option, not even a choice, right? And then the W stands for way forward. So the way forward is maybe I'm going to use MyFitnessPal. I'm going to track my calories. I'm going to meal prep and know ahead of time what I'm going to make, because maybe if I don't plan ahead, then I succumb to convenience in the sense of I didn't pack anything in the car. I've been driving all over the place. I'm just going to pull in somewhere really fast and eat on the road, which then turns into a 2,000 calorie meal in and of itself. And I've already ruined kind of my caloric deficit that I was going for, right? That's an example of grow. Grow can also be goal. Goal, I want to save an extra $2,000 this year or this month. I want to put $2,000 away into the savings account. Well, what's my reality? Well, reality is taking inventory of what are my expenses this month and what is my income this month. Am I already going to be at a surplus that it's just a matter of not making poor choices? So let's say that I have expenses of $5,000 a month and I'm making $10,000 this month. Okay. Well, if you are W-2 and taxes are withheld, that's a different story. Like many of you that are on here, if you're an independent contractor, solopreneur, business owner, you need to allocate for your own taxes. So now you've pulled aside for taxes. You know what your expenses are for $5,000. Let's just say that you're left over with about $2,500. Well, the choice is with that $2,500, if my goal is still to save $2,000, I either need to go back and look at my $5,000 of expenses and go, is there any room for negotiation here? As well as what are some of those choices that I can make to make sure that I don't feel deprived, because if I feel deprived, I'm going to just lapse on myself. Or what are some of those other things that might get in the way, right? And then move into the way forward. Maybe the way forward is I know myself, if I see it there and it's just staring at me, I think I can spend it. It's sitting in that account. Maybe I open up a separate savings account, maybe an online savings account with a bank I don't even have a card to, things I don't even have access to, making the barrier a little bit harder. You know, when I was younger, you know, this is before college, I used to give my money to my grandmother. Now, if any of you think that I'm stern, you should meet my grandmother, because she is where I got it from. Also, if I had to ask her for any of my money back, I knew that it was like having a prosecutor on the opposite side hanging on to my money. And if I just couldn't defend it as to why I needed that money, then that money would stay there, right? And so I've learned as an adult to create an online version of my grandmother in terms of building barriers so that I don't even see the money, I don't even think I can spend it. And so I move that money at the beginning of the month versus hoping for everything else to come into alignment, and then I'm going to go ahead and move that money. Right? So the idea here is you can do this in a multitude of situations, right? We can take it even to the extreme. We could say maybe the thing, and I've had coaching sessions with individuals who were planning for divorce. So let's say that the goal is divorce. They want to get out of a toxic relationship. They want to be able to go out on their own, whatever that is. It might be a little bit longer, because what is the reality? The reality is, what's their living situation? What is their financial situation? Do they have money to make a move? Have they talked to an attorney? Any of those things that might be the reality. Then we look at the obstacles. What are some of those obstacles? Maybe the obstacles are the lack of money. I need to secure a job. I need to figure out where I need to go, whatever that might look like. And then planning a way forward is I'm going to start speaking with an attorney. I'm going to maybe enlist someone close to me that can keep this between the two of us, maybe a family member or someone that I'm very close to, who can help me build out certain situations so that I can take that leap of faith and I'm not completely stranded on my own. Right? There are multitudes of what this can look like, but the idea is that I don't want to just sit in the struggle and the idea that I just become typecast as the victim. I want to look at this as a chapter, and then I want to use the grow model to ensure that I can get out of this chapter and I can see the struggle, acknowledge it, be grateful for it, and then move on. So that is one of those things that I think are very, very important. So looking at some of the things that are on here is, I would love to hear from you some ahas that are here. J9 said, oh my God, you were talking about me. I'm assuming that's one of the ones further back, maybe not necessarily the last conversation. There was a lag for me reading. Sorry about that, J9, right? Probably about money. And so looking at some of the things that are here is I just want to hear from you, knowing that, as I had mentioned, many of these topics, sometimes I'm talking directly to you, as I had a wonderful conversation with Alicia about last week's episode. Maybe for some of you, it's like, this was nice. It wasn't necessarily applicable to me. I'm not really going through any struggles. Life is good. But I would love to hear from you. What are you hearing? What are you interpreting? What are you wanting to apply either to yourself or maybe to a loved one, someone who this message might get to, ahas, insight, anything that you have in terms of observations. Would love to just hear a few things from you before we go off into our day, and we will kind of go on from there. So let's see some comments. While I'm waiting for comments, so in terms of planning, if part of your goal settings might be around finances, it might be around the 7 circles of your life, it might be about building your business plan or taking control of the last 5 months of the year. We have a wonderful mid-year business planning workbook that's got a lot of tools that you can use around setting goals for the week, for the month, for the year. Different areas where you can reflect on certain parts of your life where you might want to be able to set some goals. And so I know that Shantae will make that available to you. It's something that I think she already kind of pushed out in an email if you're a part of our email newsletter. If you're not a part of our email newsletter, please put your email in the comments below. We want to make sure that we're able to get some really great information to you. We try very hard to make sure that there's content that is relevant, that is interesting, that is of value to you. So of course, we'd love to make sure that you're a part of that newsletter if you are already not a part of it. But looking at some of those other things that are there. Again, would love to get some feedback from you, so please put them in the comment section. Would love to be able to see that so much. And we are at the top of the hour. It is 9:02, so I want to be mindful of everyone's time, including my own. So I hope that you have a wonderful day. Please continue to put the comments in. I promise that I will go back and respond and give feedback later in the day. But thank you so much for being here. I really do appreciate you, and I will see you next week for another episode of Conscious Conversations. Bye, everybody.